February 27th began like any other for Patrick de la Cerda. He was a resident of a quiet suburban community in Central Florida, a place where daily routines often unfolded with predictable regularity. On this particular evening, Patrick had plans. These plans involved a meeting, one he likely considered routine or perhaps a minor transaction. He left his home in the town of Oviedo, a location known for its oak-lined streets and tranquil neighborhoods, anticipating a quick return. However, Patrick de la Cerda did not return home. As the hours stretched into the following day, his absence became a cause for concern among his family members. Initial phone calls went unanswered. Text messages remained unread. This uncharacteristic silence quickly transformed into a growing apprehension, as Patrick was known for his consistent communication and reliability. His family initiated contact with local authorities in Seminole County, explaining their increasing worry. The first steps in such a situation involve attempts to locate the individual. Law enforcement officials began a preliminary inquiry. They contacted Patrick's known associates, visited locations he frequented, and checked hospitals and other emergency services. These initial efforts, however, yielded no immediate answers. The ordinary tapestry of daily life in the community remained undisturbed. Yet within the de la Cerda family, an unsettling void had suddenly appeared. Patrick had simply vanished, leaving behind no immediate explanation for his disappearance. The early stages of the investigation were characterized by a pervasive lack of tangible evidence. There was no note, no sign of forced entry at his residence, no indication of a struggle. His vehicle was also missing, which initially complicated tracking efforts. This absence of immediate clues often suggests two possibilities. Either a voluntary departure, which seemed highly improbable given Patrick's established patterns, or a meticulously planned act of malice designed to leave no trace. Without any clear indicators, investigators face a complex puzzle, their inquiries encountering a series of dead ends. As the days progressed without any sign of Patrick, the situation transitioned from a missing person case to a more urgent and ominous inquiry. The quiet suburban setting, once a symbol of security, now seemed to conceal an unexplained event. The community, though large, offered few immediate insights into Patrick's fate. His family continued their fervent appeals for information, their concern escalating with each passing hour. The absence of traditional forensic evidence meant that investigators needed to broaden their scope, looking for any subtle disruption to the ordinary flow of life that might have been overlooked. The individual responsible for Patrick's disappearance, if indeed it was a deliberate act, likely believed their actions had been executed without leaving any discernible trail, a belief often cultivated in the absence of immediate detection. As days stretched into a full week with no word from Patrick de la Cerda, the initial concern among his family solidified into a profound and chilling dread. The police investigation, originally categorized as a missing person inquiry, gradually began to shift its focus. The circumstances surrounding Patrick's sudden and inexplicable disappearance, the lack of any communication, the missing vehicle, and the complete absence of a known reason for him to depart voluntarily, led investigators to conclude that this was likely a more sinister situation. Despite the absence of a discovered body or a defined crime scene, the case was officially elevated to a presumed homicide investigation, marking a significant and grim turning point for the law enforcement team in Seminole County, Florida. The initial investigative efforts encountered substantial hurdles. Detectives conducted extensive interviews with Patrick's family members, probing for any recent disputes, financial troubles, or unusual interactions he might have had. His professional life as a real estate agent was scrutinized for any contentious dealings or disgruntled clients. His social circle was similarly examined, with friends and acquaintances questioned about his activities, his relationships, and any potential adversaries. Each line of inquiry, however, seemed to lead to a cul-de-sac. Patrick was described as an amiable individual, generally well-liked, with no overt enemies that anyone could readily identify. The meticulous questioning painted a picture of a relatively normal existence, making his sudden vanishing even more perplexing. The absence of a traditional crime scene presented a particularly vexing challenge. Without a physical location to process, forensic teams lacked the immediate evidence. fingerprints, biological samples, weapons that often provide critical early leads in a homicide case. The missing vehicle was a significant impediment as well. While its license plate was logged and alerts issued, the vast network of roads and the sheer volume of daily traffic across Central Florida made its immediate recovery a formidable task. This void of physical evidence, coupled with the lack of direct witnesses to any incident, contributed to a growing sense of frustration among the investigators. During this period of intense but seemingly fruitless activity, the perpetrator, the individual responsible for Patrick's disappearance, likely felt a growing sense of confidence. The meticulous planning, the careful execution of their actions, appeared to have yielded the desired outcome, a crime without a discernible trail. Each day that passed without an arrest, each report of a dead end from the police, would have reinforced their belief that they had successfully navigated the complexities of concealment, leaving no trace for law enforcement to follow. This perceived success often fosters a dangerous sense of impunity, a conviction that the absence of immediate discovery equates to ultimate escape from accountability. As the weeks began to accumulate without a breakthrough, the investigative team recognized a need to broaden their approach beyond conventional methods. While they continued to pursue traditional leads, they also began to delve deeper into Patrick's digital footprint. His phone records were analyzed for unusual calls or patterns. His email accounts and social media activity were reviewed for any clandestine communications or hidden connections. However, even in the digital realm, Patrick's online presence appeared unremarkable, offering no immediate revelations. The challenge for the investigators was to find an invisible thread in a world that seemingly offered no visible connections to crime. It was clear that a different kind of evidence, perhaps less obvious but ultimately more revealing, would be required to pierce the veil of secrecy surrounding Patrick de la Cerda's disappearance and ultimate fate. The answers, if they existed, lay hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right perspective to bring them to light. As the second week of the investigation concluded with no substantial progress, a sense of quiet determination settled over the Seminole County Sheriff's Office. The traditional avenues of inquiry, witness interviews, financial examinations, and digital footprint analyses had yielded a vast amount of information, yet none of it pointed directly to Patrick de la Cerda's whereabouts or the circumstances of his disappearance. The team, led by Detective Amanda Hayes, recognized that a different, more exhaustive approach was required to penetrate the deliberate silence surrounding the case. It was at this critical juncture that the strategic decision was made to embark upon a massive, painstaking review of CCTV and private surveillance footage from across the region. This was not a simple task. Modern American suburban and urban environments are saturated with digital eyes. Every gas station, convenience store, ATM, traffic light business, and many private residences operate surveillance systems. This meant potentially hundreds, if not thousands, of cameras within a 10 to 20-mile radius of Patrick's last known location in Oviedo, and along any plausible routes he might have taken. The sheer volume of data involved was staggering, measured in terabytes of video, requiring immense storage capacity and dedicated personnel for systematic review. It was the investigative equivalent of sifting through countless grains of sand to find a single, specific pebble. The initial phase of the CCTV review was characterized by relentless, manual labor. Teams of officers and analysts were assigned to collect footage from every accessible camera system. This involved door-to-door requests for private security footage, official warrants for commercial establishments, and coordination with municipal traffic camera departments. Once collected, the raw footage presented its own set of challenges. Much of it was low resolution, especially during nighttime hours. Timestamps were often inaccurate or unsynchronized across different systems, requiring painstaking cross-referencing and calibration. The majority of the video showed nothing more than mundane daily activity. Cars passing, pedestrians walking, empty streets. The search for a single relevant frame, a fleeting glimpse of Patrick, his missing vehicle, or any suspicious activity, felt akin to searching for an invisible anomaly within a sea of ordinary visual information. This exhaustive undertaking represented a deliberate shift in strategy, born out of necessity when conventional methods reached their limits. In the absence of a body or a traditional crime scene, the surveillance network became the investigative team's most potent, albeit unwieldy, tool. It was a recognition that while physical evidence might have been meticulously cleaned or removed by a perpetrator, digital records, captured automatically and impersonally, were far more difficult to manipulate or erase entirely. The perpetrator, feeling confident in their actions, might have overlooked the ubiquitous nature of these digital observers, believing their movements were unseen, their presence unrecorded. This miscalculation, if indeed it occurred, would prove to be their undoing. To manage the enormous scale of this task, Detective Hayes brought in additional resources. A dedicated team of analysts, equipped with specialized software for fast-forwarding, time-stamping, and flagging suspicious movements, was established. They meticulously mapped out grids, focusing first on the areas immediately surrounding Patrick's home, then radiating outwards along major arterial roads leading out of Oviedo towards neighboring towns like Winter Park and Orlando. They looked for specific time windows, cross-referencing with Patrick's last known contact and the estimated time of his disappearance. They searched for patterns, a vehicle seen twice, once before and once after the presumed time of the incident, an individual appearing out of context, anything that deviated from the everyday rhythm of the environment. Hours turned into days and days into weeks, as the screens glowed incessantly in the makeshift command center. The monotony of the task was immense, requiring extreme patience and meticulous attention to detail. Every anomaly, however minor, was flagged for closer inspection. A brief glimpse of a specific vehicle model, a person walking at an unusual hour, the faint reflection of a license plate. Each was a potential fragment that could contribute to the overall picture. This systematic review was a testament to the investigator's commitment, a silent, unblinking vigil in the digital realm. The individual who believed they had successfully left no trace was about to discover the unwavering truth of persistent surveillance. The story of Patrick de la Cerda was beginning to write itself not through witness statements, but through the objective, unwavering gaze of countless digital eyes. The first faint outlines of a timeline, a specific vehicle, were just beginning to emerge in the overwhelming static of ordinary life. The monumental task of reviewing thousands of hours of surveillance footage eventually began to yield its initial, crucial dividends for Detective Hayes' team. After weeks of painstaking, often monotonous observation, a breakthrough occurred. A junior analyst, sifting through footage from a gas station camera located approximately 5 miles from Patrick de la Cerda's Oviedo residence, flagged a specific vehicle. It was Patrick's missing sedan, captured briefly passing the station at precisely 10:17 p.m. on the night of February 27th. The image was grainy, illuminated primarily by the station's canopy lights, but the distinct model and license plate digits, though partially obscured, were discernible enough to confirm the identification. This single, seemingly fleeting image was the pivotal first piece. It provided a concrete time and location for Patrick's vehicle, establishing a directional vector for the investigation. Immediately, the team focused their efforts on all camera systems along that specific route, working backward and forward from the 10:17 p.m. timestamp. This involved meticulously acquiring footage from traffic cameras, commercial establishments, and private home security systems along the major thoroughfare leading towards a gas station, and then beyond it into the next municipality. The scope of their digital search narrowed considerably, transforming the vast digital ocean into a more manageable river. As they followed the digital trail, a more disturbing pattern began to emerge. Approximately 20 minutes before Patrick's sedan passed a gas station, a second vehicle, a dark-colored pickup truck of a common model, was observed on several different camera feeds, consistently traveling in close proximity to Patrick's car. This truck appeared on footage from a bank ATM camera near Patrick's home, then on a traffic light camera a few blocks away, and subsequently on another business surveillance system. Its consistent presence near Patrick's known movements, particularly leading away from his neighborhood, raised immediate suspicion. It was not overtly tailing, but its persistent appearance within the same time frames and routes suggested deliberate, if subtle, association. The meticulous cross-referencing continued. Investigators managed to obtain high-resolution images of the pickup truck from a pawn shop security system located further down the road, where the truck had paused briefly for a few moments. These clearer images allowed for the identification of specific, unique characteristics of the vehicle: a distinctive dent on the rear bumper, a missing hubcap on the front passenger wheel, and a faint custom decal on the rear window. These identifying marks were crucial. They transformed a generic vehicle type into a specific, trackable asset. The truck, it became clear, was not merely coincidental. The sheer volume of surveillance coverage, often overlooked by those planning illicit activities, had proven to be the perpetrator's fundamental miscalculation. The assumption that individual cameras operate in isolation, or that their recordings are rarely reviewed in detail, was demonstrably false in this instance. Each camera, a silent, unblinking witness, had captured a fragment of the truth. When strung together, these fragments formed an undeniable visual narrative, a digital breadcrumb trail leading directly toward the heart of the mystery. The perpetrator's careful removal of physical evidence from a crime scene was rendered largely irrelevant by the omnipresent digital eyes of the city. With a specific vehicle identified, the investigation moved rapidly into a new phase. License plate recognition software was employed on any footage where the truck's plate might be visible, even partially. Simultaneously, the unique physical characteristics were entered into a database search, looking for similar vehicles registered within the region or associated with known individuals. This systematic approach, leveraging both the vastness of the surveillance network and advanced technological tools, began to close the net around the elusive suspect. The cold case, once shrouded in mystery and lacking any direct evidence, was now defined by a clear, visual pathway toward accountability. The team then began to meticulously cross-reference the identified truck with Patrick de la Cerda's known associates, his recent phone calls, and any previous disputes he might have had. They revisited old interview transcripts, looking for any mention of such a vehicle or individuals who owned one. A few obscure connections began to surface. A distant acquaintance, a former business associate, someone with a peripheral connection to a past real estate transaction that had turned contentious. These individuals had been interviewed initially and dismissed due to a lack of direct evidence. But now, the distinct image of the truck breathed new life into their relevance. The long, painstaking work had produced a tangible lead, shifting the paradigm of the entire investigation and placing the team firmly on a path toward identifying the individual who thought they had truly gotten away. The unseen digital witnesses had begun to speak, their objective recordings outlining a trajectory toward justice for Patrick de la Cerda. The clear identification of the dark-colored pickup truck, with its distinctive dent and missing hubcap, provided Detective Hayes' team with the decisive traction they had diligently sought. Leveraging national and state vehicle registration databases, combined with the detailed visual characteristics, investigators soon narrowed down a list of potential owners in the Central Florida area. This methodical filtering led them to Derek Sterling, a resident of a neighboring town, whose vehicle registration perfectly matched the descriptions gleaned from the high-resolution surveillance footage. Sterling's truck also bore the unique, faint custom decal observed on the rear window, a crucial identifying mark that solidified the connection. A deeper dive into Derek Sterling's background immediately established a tangible link to Patrick de la Cerda. It was discovered that Sterling and de la Cerda were not strangers. They had been involved in a contentious real estate transaction several months prior. Patrick, in his capacity as a real estate agent, had facilitated a property sale to Sterling that subsequently fell through due to unforeseen zoning complications, resulting in significant financial losses for Sterling and a protracted legal dispute over commissions and earnest money. This unresolved conflict provided a clear and compelling motive, transforming a random disappearance into a targeted act of retribution. Sterling had a history of volatile behavior when facing financial setbacks, a detail that now resonated with grave significance. With Derek Sterling identified as a prime suspect, the investigation shifted focus to meticulously corroborating the visual evidence from the CCTV with other forms of proof. Police obtained warrants for Sterling's phone records. Analysis of these records revealed a series of communications between Sterling and Patrick de la Cerda on the evening of February 27th, culminating in a final call just minutes before Patrick's estimated time of disappearance. These calls indicated a planned meeting, likely to discuss their ongoing financial dispute. The location data from Sterling's phone also placed him squarely within the vicinity of Patrick's Oviedo home during the critical time frame, directly aligning with the movements of the suspicious pickup truck captured on surveillance footage. Further examination of Sterling's financial accounts revealed a recent, substantial withdrawal of cash, made just hours before the estimated time of the incident. While not conclusive on its own, this activity, combined with the other evidence, suggested preparation for an act that might involve cash transactions or a deliberate attempt to avoid digital trails. Investigators also spoke again with individuals who had interacted with Sterling around that time, subtly probing for any changes in his demeanor or unusual behavior. Some acquaintances noted a period of increased agitation in Sterling leading up to February 27th, followed by a sudden, unsettling calmness in the days immediately after Patrick's disappearance, a calmness that seemed disproportionate to his prior stress over financial dispute. As the net tightened, signs indicated that Derek Sterling was becoming aware of the increasing police scrutiny. He had begun to alter his daily routines, taking different routes to work and reducing his social interactions. His phone showed a decrease in outgoing calls and an increased reliance on encrypted messaging applications. These subtle shifts in behavior, though not direct admissions of guilt, were consistent with someone attempting to evade observation, reinforcing the investigators' growing certainty. The killer, who had initially believed his actions left no trace, was now operating under the shadow of persistent digital surveillance. The confidence born from the perceived absence of immediate evidence was gradually eroding under the relentless pressure of the methodical investigation. The accumulated evidence, meticulously compiled over weeks of relentless work, presented an overwhelming narrative. The timeline established by the surveillance footage, beginning with the dark pickup truck's presence near Patrick's home, tracking its journey alongside Patrick's sedan, and placing Sterling's phone in the same locations, formed a compelling digital roadmap of the perpetrator's movements. This visual proof, combined with a motive derived from their past conflict and the incriminating phone records, built an undeniable case. The detective secured an arrest warrant for Derek Sterling. The apprehension of Derek Sterling was executed without incident at his residence. He offered no resistance, his composure a stark contrast to the gravity of the charges. The search of his property, authorized by the warrant, yielded additional circumstantial evidence. While not a direct confession or the discovery of a murder weapon, items found reinforced the connections already established. The silent, objective testimony of countless security cameras, once unseen and unheard, had now spoken with undeniable clarity, stripping away the illusion of escape that the perpetrator had carefully constructed. The case, once a baffling mystery, had found its prime suspect, brought to light by the unblinking eyes of surveillance technology. The path to achieving justice for Patrick de la Cerda was now firmly established, leading directly to the courtroom. Following Derek Sterling's apprehension, the investigation entered a new, intensified phase. With the primary suspect in custody, law enforcement executed a comprehensive search warrant at his residence and surrounding property. This systematic search yielded critical additional evidence that solidified the case against him. Investigators located articles of clothing matching descriptions of garments worn by an individual seen on some of the more distant, lower-resolution surveillance footage captured near Patrick de la Cerda's vehicle. More significantly, forensic analysis of the interior of Sterling's pickup truck, specifically a meticulous examination of its cargo bed, revealed trace evidence, minute fibers and specific soil particles, that correlated precisely with elements found at a remote, wooded location previously identified by investigators through cell phone tower pings from Sterling's device during the crucial hours after Patrick's disappearance. This new intelligence prompted an immediate, concentrated search of that specific, desolate area in a less populated part of Lake County, Florida. After several days of intensive ground searches involving K-9 units and specialized terrain vehicles, Patrick de la Cerda's missing sedan was discovered concealed beneath a dense canopy of foliage. The vehicle had been meticulously stripped of its license plates and some interior components, indicating a deliberate attempt at concealment and destruction of evidence. More profoundly, within the immediate vicinity of the abandoned vehicle, the remains of Patrick de la Cerda were tragically located. The medical examiner's report confirmed the cause of death as homicide, providing the final, somber confirmation of what had been long suspected. The discovery of Patrick's body brought a heartbreaking finality to the family's prolonged ordeal, but also provided the crucial direct evidence necessary to solidify the homicide charges against Derek Sterling. The prosecution, led by a seasoned district attorney in Seminole County, prepared a compelling case for trial. The central pillar of their argument rested on irrefutable, objective evidence provided by the extensive network of surveillance cameras. They intended to present a minute-by-minute visual reconstruction of the events surrounding Patrick's disappearance, directly implicating Derek Sterling. The digital ledger of Sterling's phone communications with Patrick de la Cerda on the evening of February 27th served as a critical precursor to this visual narrative, establishing the planned meeting that night. The trial of Derek Sterling commenced in the state court, drawing significant local attention. The prosecution meticulously laid out its case, beginning with the detailed testimony of Detective Amanda Hayes, who explained the exhaustive process of collecting and analyzing hundreds of hours of surveillance footage. Then, the courtroom witnessed a silent, yet undeniably powerful, testimony of the CCTV itself. Jurors were presented with a carefully curated sequence of video clips. The dark pickup truck, clearly identifiable by its unique features, first appearing near Patrick's residence, then consistently tracking the path of Patrick's sedan across various intersections and commercial properties. The digital timestamp overlays provided an undeniable chronology, illustrating Sterling's movements in direct relation to Patrick's last known trajectory. The prosecution also presented expert testimony from forensic analysts detailing the trace evidence found in Sterling's truck that matched the recovery site of Patrick's body. Phone records, financial transactions, and testimony from Patrick's family and colleagues established the financial dispute motive and Sterling's agitated state leading up to the incident. Derek Sterling's defense attempted to discredit the digital evidence, arguing that the footage was too grainy, the timestamps unreliable, or that the truck's features were too common to be definitively linked to him. They proposed alternate explanations for his presence in the area and his phone activity, suggesting coincidental timing or routine errands. However, these attempts largely crumbled under the weight of the collective evidence. The sheer volume and consistency of the surveillance footage from disparate camera systems, coupled with corroborating digital and physical evidence, created an unshakable factual wall. The prosecution systematically demonstrated how each piece of Sterling's alibi dissolved when juxtaposed against the objective, unblinking eyes of the cameras. After weeks of testimony, deliberations by the jury concluded. The verdict was delivered. Derek Sterling was found guilty of the first-degree murder of Patrick de la Cerda. He was also convicted on related charges, including kidnapping and the tampering with physical evidence. The courtroom, filled with Patrick's grieving family and attentive members of the public, remained silent as the verdict was read, a profound weight lifting from the collective atmosphere. The subsequent sentencing hearing saw Derek Sterling receive a life sentence without the possibility of parole, ensuring he would remain incarcerated for the remainder of his life. For the family of Patrick de la Cerda, the conviction brought a profound and necessary sense of justice. While the immense sorrow of their loss would forever remain, the legal process had provided definitive answers and held the perpetrator accountable. The killer, Derek Sterling, had indeed believed he had successfully covered his tracks, that the absence of a direct witness or an immediate crime scene would grant him impunity. He had underestimated the pervasive reach of modern surveillance technology and the relentless dedication of law enforcement. The silent, objective eyes of countless CCTV cameras had borne witness to his movements, meticulously documenting the truth that his efforts to conceal had failed to erase. The case of Patrick de la Cerda stood as a clear testament to the principle that while human perception may be fallible or absent, digital records, when properly investigated, offer an unwavering chronicle, ensuring that even in the darkest of moments, truth can ultimately prevail, bringing a measure of vindication for the victim and their loved ones.
Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe for more.